All right, yeah, we seem to be good. Okay, ready?
Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Nicole,
I'm Jason.
and all of our technology broke today. But today we are discussing our second week of reading for Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This is chapter 7 through 14, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. So, just a nice little reminder, if you haven't read up to this point in the book, stop the video, back up, finish reading, and then come catch up with us. If you're live, chat up in the chat, and if you are catching us on the replay, chat it up in the comment section.
Yeah.
We're on YouTube Music as a Podcast. We may or may not be on Instagram. Somebody's account got deleted. And we're really happy to have you here today. So, no, the tripod didn't get knocked over and the dog did not eat the wire. YouTube doesn't like going horizontal anymore.
It's a real pain.
Even though it's horizontal. It's like, oh, wait, you're not horizontal.
I'm about to buy a camera just to avoid
We don't
this
know how
problem.
many ways to tell it
Yeah.
that we're horizontal.
I wasn't deleted. I locked myself out.
Jason just woke up one day and couldn't get back in.
No, I know what I did. I did it. I did it. I locked myself out. It was not foul play. I didn't do anything to get banned. I just locked myself out.
I don't know.
It's kind of nice. It's been nice, you know. That was kind of something I was thinking about while doing this reading, because I did most of my reading last night after being locked out of Instagram. Was, you know, this book is set during the pandemic, and so these people are like really sticking to the rules, even like for the most part, even though they like live on a farm somewhere. And I feel like nobody else did. But you know, they kind of have this. They're sort of like detached, you know, from, or they're trying to stay detached from things, and you know, they have the no phones at the table rule that they all break or whatever. But anyway, I was just thinking about my current situation and that. So, there you go. I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, we're in the South and no one followed the rules ever during COVID. So we followed the rules, but the rules weren't as ruly in the South.
Fair enough.
But
Not
if
as
I
really.
lived on a farm,
Nicole straight up asked me if we could go and get a farm.
well, we talked about this last week.
I know, but like it came up again. So.
Did it? Michigan wasn't playing with the rules like some other states. Right. Well, like California was purely locked down. And I say the South wasn't following the rules. You know, like New Orleans, you couldn't go into New Orleans if you couldn't prove you were vaccinated and all that stuff once that was out. Yeah. Shout out to Florida. Was Florida super locked down?
They like weren't going to do it, and we're very proud of not doing it, and then I think they did something. So anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about this book.
Yeah. So I'm still liking it. I didn't start reading the cycle yesterday. But
It's been a busy week.
But it's an easy book to read and it goes quickly.
Yeah.
We learned a lot about Duke and about Duke's brother, and we also learned who the husband is, Joe. Yeah. Like, that was kind of funny that, like, all of a sudden she's like, and then I called him by his proper name, Joe, and then a couple of minutes later you're like, wait,
that
Joe?
That part legitimately confused me.
And then, like, a page later, she's like, the kids are like, wait!
That's
Dad! When Dad comes in!
Yeah. You know, I kind of like that reveal because husband Joe, has kind of been a non-character this entire time, right? Like, he just wasn't anything. He was just the farming dad, and, like, she loves him because she loves him, and she, you know, like, he was just kind of a nut and button, right? Like, he existed, but he almost didn't feel, like, respected. He almost didn't feel included because he wasn't a part of this, like, storytelling. He was just, like, his big line was like, oh, yeah, I knew Duke one time, and they're like, what? And that was it. And then you find out that, like, he isn't nobody. You know, he was around for all this stuff, and he, like, is a character. And anyway, that was just kind of a nice twist because I felt that he was kind of left out. And to find out that, like, he isn't really is kind of nice.
I didn't ever feel like he was left out. I felt like he knew stuff and was just letting the mom deal with this nightmare.
Yeah.
he also was very detached from the Duke Laura time.
Yeah, sure.
He was not active in her life other than being her director.
Yeah, except for that time he invited her on a date and she brought a date.
But I don't know that he was really inviting her on a date
Right, yeah,
that
sure.
day. You
Right,
know, it
yeah.
was just, it kind of just came up and happened. Um, yeah, Shelby mentioned she forgot the director wasn't much older. You assume the director was older. Well, the director was the adult in the room, while all the
Right.
actors were the children.
Yeah.
I really have enjoyed learning about Palace. She's really cool.
Yeah, she's cool.
The dancer and the understudy, and she's really working her butt off. And a cool I'm going rogue because this is what's happened to my Kindle. There are no words. It's in wingdings. What was I saying? Oh, a cool commentary about how while there was still a lot of roles and expectations towards, you know, different people, it's like they were in this very multicultural bubble for a little bit, and that was really neat.
You know, there's so much stress on multiculturalism that I forget that this book is set in like 1988. You know, for like the Tom Lake bit. Because like our last book was set in what 1965, and so like multiculturalism is a big deal because it's brand new, just out the box. By 1988, you know, you're 20 years later, and it's still a big deal.
Yeah.
But these two books are kind of like, they're not blending together, but like the time is blending together, and there's, you know, the technology in 1965 and the technology in 1988 are not sufficiently different.
Right.
And so there's like no phones or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it was like semi-difficult for people to like travel around and like, you know, they had to like scrape up money to like get her a plane ticket and stuff like that. And it just, it feels kind of the same.
Yeah, that is very interesting. At this part of the reveal of Joe being the dad and the director, you know, there was this weird cut in Laura's memory where she's talking to Joe's mom. And that's when I kind of realized, like, oh, this is who everyone is. And I'm listening to the audiobook, so it really broke my attention for a second because it was so odd. But she was, I can't remember her name, and again, it's fine, we don't have to worry about this. I just don't want you to be distracted by my broken book. She like stopped for a second. She said, you know, just think of, or I wish you could see us now. You know, we're here, we're keeping the farm alive. Yeah. The kitchen's bigger now, you know, and the kitchen was so tiny then, and how she cried when she dropped Joe's mom's sugar bowl, and you know, and just this book is about the past and memories and the way we hold people in our minds, and the sugar bowl is, you know, this physical object that is symbolic of a past and a future and all that. And I thought that was really interesting. Basically, the last paragraph of every chapter, I'm like, ah. Huh. I'll highlight it.
But yeah, the girls do seem to be named after Joe's family, right? Because there's the Aunt Mays, and there's Maisie, and then there's Nell. And I believe there was a Nell character, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't remember.
Or it could just be like a play on Nelson, right?
Oh, Nell Nelson.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a rough
I
name,
would be
but,
displeased.
Yeah, and then, of course, Emily is named after the character in the play
Emily.
who dies in childbirth, right? Yeah, that was kind of an interesting conversation.
It
where
was.
They don't want to have kids because of the cherry trees and, like, because of, like, the climate or whatever, and like, the way the world is going. And honestly, I felt like that part was, like, way too on the nose. It was just... Oh, okay, right? Like yes, people think that, but
it's a really distressing thought, I think, for younger people right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, no, I can't have kids. There's not going to be an earth to raise them in.
Yeah.
It's going to be too hot, and there's not going to be enough food. I mean, they're worried.
Yeah. I just, you know, the conversation kind of comes out of nowhere, and like I'm not like discounting that as a consideration. But it just kind of like, here is some information. There was one other part like this where I thought it was like a little, it felt almost preachy. Yeah, it was just like, I have this thought. I want you to know that there's thought exists. So here it is. But like, yeah, I'm on board with people not having kids. I don't care. Like, do your thing. And if you don't want to have kids because you think the world is going to end, I buy that too. Like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It just there was no indication that Emily had this thought. It was my problem is with the presentation and not with the concept. So
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Why are they telling the story now? Peggy's guess is that Duke is dead. Well, we get this big foreshadowing moment with him acting in the movie,
yeah,
and
explain this.
it to the people who knew him watching it, which is Laura and so I accidentally read a little too far ahead, so I might be kind of revealing some stuff, but it's not really like a spoiler. So Laura and Joe,
Mm-hmm.
the people who knew him, when they watched him acting, it was uncomfortable because they could tell he wasn't acting.
Like the part where he like hits the crack pipe or whatever.
Right.
Okay, yeah,
And
that's at the
so
end of chapter 14.
this look of relief because he's addicted, it becomes very clear that they realize that he has an addiction problem. And Laura saw that starting when they were working on the other play and they were
Right.
drinking all the tequila and all that stuff. I think is what's happening. I think that's
Gotcha.
what they're seeing. So to anyone watching it, it's just heartbreaking and sad because he's a good actor. To the people who knew him, it's heartbreaking and sad because it wasn't an act.
Right.
And they see what's happening.
But he wasn't like hitting crack in the movie. He just like knew how to fake it because he's been smoking crack. Okay.
And maybe like between scenes,
Yeah.
maybe he kept himself withdrawn before and then
Well, and that's sort of the Uncle Wallace.
yes.
Is that who it was? Yeah, the Uncle
Yes.
Wallace, and that's sort of like a foreshadowing then of
Yes.
what's going on with him because okay, yeah, I
And
buy
even
that.
Duke's comment of like, he just went too hard and became too pitiful and couldn't handle himself.
Yeah.
Well, you become, this thing. The Uncle Wallace thing was really sad. And again, kind of drilled in that theme of the way that we hold people in our minds is so different from what they are in
Right.
reality. And so Laura had Uncle Wallace in her mind as Uncle Wallace.
Yeah.
He was a good dad because he was a good dad in the show. And then she sees how sad it is that his addiction has destroyed him and his second wife shows up to help him and he has kids and the kids think that he's
Right.
something great because he was Uncle Wallace and he really wasn't much of anything as a dad or as a husband or as a person outside of acting.
Yeah. And I've said this like several times. I really enjoy stories that are just about people, just like doing people things, and nothing special. And there's no heroes, and they're not saving the world. They're just being people. And excuse you, get your ball.
Atlas is talking to us.
And I think that this story is like kind of subversive in that way because it's taking like these stories and saying like the stories that we have about people, they aren't true.
Right.
These people are just people, and I enjoy that part. She all right?
I think she gagged herself on her toy. Right. I hope y'all can't hear that.
Anyway, but it's taking is Duke who you think he is? No. Because still, and like we've had this thing where Laura lists like these dark moments about Duke, but it's still not like bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's weird. But she was saying, she's had some like very intense thoughts about like, well, no, that wasn't like the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, why? Is it because he burned himself with a cigarette one time? Like, yeah, that's not cool, but that doesn't like ruin a whole relationship. There's been nothing big enough yet for me.
But I think as this is a big part of her development. She didn't know what she wanted to be. She's learning that she is not an actress and cannot act.
Yeah.
She's with this guy out of convenience. It's fun. It's a fling. And he's charming and he's handsome. But there's this element of danger that time has painted better red flags on than what she saw in the moment.
Right.
And so looking back, she's realizing like this isn't healthy. Like I started smoking, I started drinking, I was babysitting this grown man who couldn't take care of himself. I mean, she was just a kid and she was just living or not a kid, but a young adult, just living and having a really good summer that
Yeah.
felt like it was 10 years, you know?
It's in this conversation about Duke and like what's wrong with him that is the other moment that I felt like was a little too preachy, where the girls are like, you can't call somebody crazy and you can't talk about their diagnosis and you can't even call somebody schizophrenic, which like in my world is ridiculous because that's like, I diagnose people, right? That's the deal. And
But kids are so quick to correct their parents on the
yes,
new way that things are
yes,
done.
and it is true that that is sort of like the I don't know. I'm not sure what this like the way to do things is to not talk about these things unless you are like labeling yourself or whatever. I'm not disagreeing that like you probably shouldn't just up and call people crazy. I think we do it
It's
as an
yeah.
expediency, and I have no problem with that. But like they're like, oh well, then you can't talk about his diagnosis, and like I guess the theory there is like it's kind of gossip. But guess what? Y'all doing that
Yeah,
anyway,
this whole
and that
thing
was
is
where that's
gossip.
really my problem here, right? Like I don't want you to talk about his diagnosis, but if you could tell me personal details of this man's life that nobody else knows because you were the only one who witnessed it, that'd be fantastic. Okay, thanks. Right? Like what is that? It's just hypocritical.
I find, but they are 18 and 19 and 20.
Yeah, I know.
It's so
Yeah.
realistic.
I know. I've had people say this kind of stuff to me.
I've said this kind of stuff to my parents, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then as a former teacher of,
Yeah.
17 and 18-year-olds,
Yeah.
that it's nothing but they're just trying to, they know the way their parents did things wasn't the best way to do it, and
Yeah.
they've got a better way to do it, and they're trying to navigate that and teach everyone, and
I get that it's realistic and that 20-year-olds during 2019 would have really said this and would still say this today. But it's also just the kind of thing where if somebody said that to me in real life, I'd be like, oh, got it. I see what's going on here.
And, like, honestly, between the four of them, say whatever you want. Because this is just between the four of you.
Look, be kind. That's the rule. If you want to say somebody's schizophrenic, if it's real, if it's true, I don't care. If you want to be like, oh, he's crazy, I get it.
Yeah.
I get what you were doing there.
No, but the mom is just trying to illustrate to the girls that he had some stuff going on.
Yeah.
And he was not necessarily healthy.
Yeah. Well, and that brings us back to this theory that like he's now an addict or dead or whatever, right?
Right.
Hey, big girl. What's the chat saying?
In this story, I think she's going to be in a situation because of Duke. I don't know what, but something she's going to leave out of the story for her daughters. Ooh, like a pre-Emily.
Yeah, maybe. I'm still like not convinced that Emily is not his daughter. Like I don't know if the timelines add up, and if the timelines don't add up, fine, whatever. But
the mom is 57 now.
Yeah, that's true.
Emily is 22. I don't remember.
So like the timelines don't add up.
No.
Yeah. There's this point where she like thinks back to her school teacher boyfriend sex offender situation, like whatever that was, and I'm thinking about this because Shelby mentions that Duke is kind of predatory, and that's true. Like she is, like Joe seems very healthy to me, considering this sort of like predatory situation that she's been in, and we don't have any like backstory of anything like that happening to her while she's in LA, which is kind of interesting to me. I think if anything, she was being used financially by this guy that kept putting her in this movie and like getting her a little ads or whatever, but
yeah. Laura definitely feels responsible for whatever this is that's happened to Duke. She feels like she's enabled it, and just like she feels like she enabled Uncle Wallace. So she feels some guilt and some responsibility there. Some stuff there, just the way the writing is. I had several chuckles yesterday. They're sitting down for dinner and someone's lost their appetite because someone needs their kittens killed, and the actor daughter loses her appetite because something happened. Oh, the understudy left early or something like that, left the show early. I don't know. It was just some quick, quippy way that it was written in the book, and it was really very funny.
Yeah.
I like this author. Her style. I think she's a really good writer.
I think I said this before, but the style of writing reminds me of Well Met.
Mm.
It's just it's like realistic. It's plain. It's the way you would tell a story. I think. Yeah. I did enjoy the beach scene. I thought that was fun. I enjoyed that Joe like gave everybody a beach day and was like very insistent upon it. You know, like the night before is when the mom just like busts out at dinner and is like, "Emily, are you pregnant?" Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I'm on board. You can
say
ask
something and you just can't take it back, and you regret it ever coming out your mouth.
Lord.
I know.
You know, I've never been to Michigan, but I know some people that live in this area, and I would love to go. I'd love to go see all of it.
Oh yeah, so I bought a bunch of cherries, and it did not say where they were from. It just said where they were distributed from, but not like where they were from. So disappointing, but they were delicious. They were the sweet ones that go bad quick. You know, I had a couple other things highlighted, but that's all gone now.
Get back. I'll work on it.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I didn't have a ton of stuff. Let's see. So we're suspecting that something has happened to Duke, which is what's initiated all of this. I'm sure there is some. So this talk about like Emily having kids, and Laura kind of went through the thought, will Maisie and will Nell have kids? Who's going to take the farm? And in the past, we saw that concern of what happens to the farm. Well, it gets sold off when you die because no one wants it anymore.
Right.
And that sucks, right? Like, for people who work the land, that is their life. It's not the money. It's about breaking even, and it's about doing something worthwhile and working hard and loving the land and earning your living. And it sucks when you don't have anyone, I think, that you love who wants to continue that legacy, because you did put your entire life into that. And to an extent, we do all care about leaving some kind of legacy, So it is very sad to see the death of a family farm. And I think Laura is very proud that they've been able to continue that for the Nelsons. She's happy that Emily will continue it, but then where will it go from there? Yeah. And is it that there's just not going to be, it won't be a cherry farm anymore. It'll have to be another kind of farm because cherries aren't going to be able to grow there anymore. Or is it not going to be anyone's farm that anyone knows because Emily's not having kids?
But I think that's what's interesting, right? It's like, so we have this, I'm going to use this term again, right? This subversive story that like things aren't the way that you think they are for anybody, right? People are people and people change, and people aren't this myth that you've made them out to be, but neither is the land. This is not a cherry farm. It is just a place, and it will be something else, and it will be something else, and it will have to change. And they're sort of like fighting against that change. And I respect like trying to keep it in the family or whatever, but like it will have to adapt because it is not this thing that they have made it out to be in their minds.
Yeah.
And this kind of takes me back to that like weird scene where the girls are like screaming, "I hate you," because they burned the trees. But like, the trees had to go so that they could survive, right? They had like served their purpose. They'd done their thing. It was time to move on to the next thing. And it's and that is such a like powerful image of like literally burning the past to make way for something new. Because this is not, we are not this tree. We are this thing, and we've got to get new trees in here so we can keep going. And how the girls did not want to let go of that.
And Joe straight up said in the present storyline, "You are living too much in the past." Telling this old story about Duke, and you can really get hung up on that and really ruin your own future for not being able to move on from the past.
Yeah.
And there's a place for it, and there's a way to settle it. And the girls are just wanting to know the story, and that's no big deal. The story is taking over like 3 days of work. In our minds, it's like consuming their lives. Yeah. And it's not.
Right.
It is for Emily, though. And
It
Emily
is for
is
Emily,
stuck
though.
in the past.
Yes.
And she does have this weird obsession with it.
It's interesting, she has such she has this obsession with the past. She has this obsession with Duke. She has this obsession with myth, right? Of the story of themselves. But she's the one who has inherited these invisible chains from the trees, right? She is, of course,
leash. Is that
yeah,
what it
the
was?
leash, yeah, yeah. She is, of course, the daughter that would be stuck doing this because she is the one who wants to keep the myth going.
Yeah.
But in another way, it's the other daughter, the actress daughter, right?
Maeve.
Yeah, she's like
I don't remember
she's
which one it
yeah, I
was.
don't remember it either, but like she's also like she's literally reliving her mother's life, right? Like she is doing this chase, and like trying to keep this like sort of dream alive, following that same path. Veterinary daughter seems pretty healthy. Good for her.
Yeah, tell your neighbors to kill their own cats.
Yeah, I get that concept, but like, boy, not here. Yeah, kill your own cats. I'm not here for that.
The chat is upset about these sandwiches.
Yeah, no.
There's no meat on the Sammies. Well,
Then it's not a sandwich.
meat goes bad.
Yeah, I have very
outside.
strong opinions about these sorts of things, especially about salads.
He said, "Yeah, salad has to have meat."
A salad is not a salad unless it has meat.
The scary pear tree story was interesting. Shelby thought
Yeah,
it was
that
going to
was
be
interesting.
worse.
Yeah, it was just that they look crazy and they like reach out and get you. And,
And I don't know if real pear trees stink. I don't. Maybe they don't.
We had a pear tree when I was a kid.
I don't remember.
I don't remember it smelling bad.
Yeah, we had one as a kid too, and I don't remember it smelling bad. But like, the decorative pear trees smell like death.
What's the difference? Maybe I had one of those.
And they don't really grow pears; they just bloom. But it is called.
I think
some
mine
kind
had
of
little
pear.
pears.
Yeah.
Ma, if you're out there, I think ours had little pears.
But yeah. Anyway, and I kind of thought maybe that had something to do with how that story came about. Like, why does it smell so bad?
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought there was some abuse going on at the house at first, but it was really just the trees looking scary.
Yeah.
It's funny. And again, kind of like that play on memory when Laura told the kid's mom, the mom kind of paused for a minute and was like, oh yeah, I was scared of that as a kid.
Yeah.
It's just this story, just everything keeps going back to memory and how we build our knowledge and our ideas of the world and all that.
Well, and again, like this is sort of like a tie back into like this idea of a story, and they have built up in their minds that these pear trees like could come alive and like grab me, and it's not true. It's just a tree, right? And we keep having these fantastic stories about things that are just what they are.
Just yeah.
It's not. There's nothing special. It just is.
And I also love how both Maisie and Nell ended up sleeping with their parents, but they're like, that tree ain't gonna get Emily. Emily's tough.
Yeah.
I worry we might all be a bit messed up. We thought the worst of the lawyer and the bee. Yeah, but he was nice, and now we think the family's bags or kids don't want to go home.
Yeah.
Well, I just, in stories, I just keep waiting for the worst thing to come out and break my heart.
It's because I see a predator behind every bush, and it is what it is. I don't know what to tell you.
It's true.
But I mean, like we've had some weirdness in the beginning of this book, so you're not out of place to think something weird might be going on. But it's also because that is sort of like that twist, right? Like your home is supposed to be a nice place, and then it isn't, and so it would not be out of place for that sort of thing to show up in this book. I don't think. Yeah, fair enough.
Heaven and earth grocery store. Olympic gold stars to everyone for busting out all these
Olympic gold stars. Ooh. We should do that. If we're still doing this in 4 years, we should do like book club Olympics where if you like whoever gets the most gold stars, you win. Whatever country you're in, they win. That'd be cool. Hey, by the way, we hit our 2nd anniversary, it appears, this week for the show.
We've been doing this for 2 years.
2 years.
Guys.
It's kind of crazy.
It's gone so fast.
Yeah. We do this every Sunday for 2 years.
We've read so many things.
I don't know. It's crazy. Wild.
So yeah, I think that's all I've really got to say about the reading.
Yeah, I think so too.
If I discover any highlights, when my book comes back to life.
Yeah, we might have to leave some comments. I'll fix it. I don't know what's wrong.
We'll talk about it next week. No biggie. Yeah, I mean, congrats on 2 years. You guys, congrats on 2 years. Y'all have been with us from the beginning.
Y'all the real troopers.
And you're still with us. And, I mean, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, we have a good time.
Talking about all these books.
And even those of you who don't join in the chat and don't watch us live, we're glad you're here.
Glad you're creeping.
Glad you're creeping.
Glad you're here.
Whenever we get big enough to make shirts, we'll make a shirt that says "Books We Never Read." Glad you're creeping.
And the next book choosing is today.
The next book choosing is today. I need to.
Are you drawing from the hat? Is Atlas picking it?
I don't know.
What's going on?
I've kind of got this idea that I want to switch it up every time, and like I thought about building a Rube Goldberg machine that would pick a book, and then I realized I don't really have time for that. So I
How about we put them all on the floor, turn on the robot vacuum, and see which one sucks up first? Could we mount the camera on the little?
We could probably do that. That'd be fun.
Robot.
That'd be fun.
We need a GoPro.
We can definitely hook a camera up to the thing. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure how we're gonna pick, but we will announce another book today. I need to refill my options a little bit if we want it to be random, because we've now pulled 1 or 2 out of there. So I'll fix that. People like robot vacuum selection. Anyway.
I mean, you just don't know what route it's gonna take. Yeah.
But like rock paper scissors is kind of our thing.
Yeah.
If you've watched enough of us, you realize that we do that for absolutely no reason, and having weird book selection processes would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Or we should do a scavenger hunt.
Well, and the rock paper scissors wasn't for no reason. We couldn't decide who talks first.
Yeah, but and then it just kept going. Yeah. Anyway, we'll let you guys go. I know this was kind of a short one, but it was a pretty straightforward read. I feel like our analysis was actually pretty good. There were some things that we said that I was like, I wish I had been this smart in college. I feel like a teacher would have gave me a good grade. So that's all I got. But yeah, we'll announce the next book later today, and thank you for being here.
Yeah. Happy reading. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. And just to be clear, we are reading to the end of the book for next week. Cool. All right. See y'all then.
Oh, hit you.